Every country in the world has three unique iconic symbols that identify it as a nation. The national anthem, which is sung or played on important national occasions. The national flag, which is made very visible whenever the entire nation is in celebratory mood, and the national coat of arms. The first two, the national flag and the national anthem, are emotional items which imbue everyone with a high sense of patriotism. The third icon, the national coat of arms, is however an emblem that presents serious national business. The national coat of arms is such an important national symbol that it can be found emblazoned on all official national documents, such as the Ghanaian passport, the driving license, official government letterheads and documents, official government publications, the national currencies, and on both military and police uniforms. It can also be seen emblazoned or flaunted in all important government places such as the castle, which is the official seat of government, the Supreme Court, the Parliament House, all government offices, and in all Ghana's diplomatic missions abroad. It is also displayed during important national functions. Indeed, the coat of arms is the one symbol that authenticates and endorses all documents that have official government sanction. It is a work of art that is unique in every sense, the handiwork, obviously, of a master artist. As Independence Day drew closer, the need for national identity icons, distinct from those of the imperial power Great Britain, became urgent. The challenge for the designing of a national flag and the composition of a national anthem were thrown to the general public through newspaper and radio announcements. With the national coat of arms, however, a different approach was adopted. The colonial masters at that time had one particular individual in mind, a budding young artist whose spectacular creativity was fast becoming proverbial. That artist, whose creative genius brought this all-important national symbol into being, is Mr. Amonkote, a native of La or Labadi in Accra. Back then, Amonkote was a 41-year-old vivacious and energetic man. Today, having lived a full life plus a grace of 20 years and more, he is 92 years old and still kicking. Kote was in public employment at the time, working with a government printer in Accra.
Now, when they came to design the Ghana coat of arms, they recommended me from Britain that let Kote design the Ghana coat of arms. Don't throw this coat of arms to all. Give it to Kote. So I had a peculiar order. You know what I did for the Ghana coat of arms? I suggested to the cabinet, in our school days, we had a professor called Professor Kwejuri Agri. He, in his talks to us one day, said Ghanaians must first of all think lofty. Dr. Agri said Ghana should think of the eagle. Ghanaians are eagles. They must aim high. Dr. Kwejuri Agri was talking to us, and that time being one of the students, receiving this inspiration from Kwejuri Aggrey. I wonder why people are not talking of Kwejuri Aggrey at this time. He was talking to us, and he spoke of the eagle for the sky. Talk of the eagles. Aggrey was talking to me. I thought he was talking to me. And so when it came to designing the coat of arms, they knew that I don't belong to Akwaba. No. I was thinking of Aggrey. And so I suggested to the cabinet, why don't we use Aggrey's eagle? And the cabinet gave me the go-ahead. He said, yes. If you think Professor Kwejuri Aggrey's eagle you want to use it by all means. Go ahead. And so I did design my coat of arms with the everything that you see.
He set to work immediately, spending the first few days to meditate on the assignment, and after a few months of research and creative work, he got the first draft design ready for presentation to his employers. The Ghana coat of arms is composed of a shield divided into 4 quarters by a green St. George's cross rimmed with gold. At the top left-hand quarter, crossed linguist staff and ceremonial sword on a blue background that represent local administration. At the top right-hand quarter, a heraldic castle on a heraldic sea with a light blue background that represents national government. At the bottom left-hand quarter, a cocoa tree that represents the agricultural wealth of the country. At the bottom right-hand quarter, a mine shaft that represents the mineral wealth of the country. At the center of the St. George's Cross, a gold lion that represents the continued link between Ghana and the Commonwealth. At the top of the shield, a 5-pointed black star rimmed with gold and standing on a wreath of red, gold, and green colors that represents the lodestar of African freedom. Supporting the shield on each side are 2 very attentive eagles, each with a black star medal suspended around its neck on a ribbon bearing the national colors of red, gold, and green. The 2 eagles signify protectors with strength and keep constant watch over the country. Inscribed under the shield is the motto, freedom and justice.
My coat of arms went to Britain. Everything that is being done in Ghana here for Britain to give us independence have to be approved from Britain. So my coat of arms also went for approval, England.
Naval Captain Evereye was the man detailed from Britain to oversee all the arrangements in the Gold Coast towards the granting of independence to the first European colony south of the Sahara Desert. One Sunday afternoon, Naval Captain Evereye called Amon Kote from the castle and asked about the progress of work on the coat of arms. Kote told him the first draft design was ready. Evereye asked how the design looked like. Kote, brimming with confidence and believing that the draft would largely meet the approval of both the Queen of England and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who was then the leader of government business, assured Evereye that it was one of the best to be found anywhere in the world. Naval Captain Evereye immediately rushed down to the government printing house and picked up the design. He took only one look at it, smiled, tucked it firmly in his armpit, shook Kote's hand and walked away. Evereye flew to Britain immediately with the design and showed it to Her Majesty the Queen for appraisal. The design was given to the Queen's Special College of Art Experts and Advisors in London for routine assessment. Save a few modifications, like the insertion of the lion at the center of the St. George's Cross, which was incorporated upon consultation with the Queen, Amon Kote's design was approved in whole. The design was returned to Ghana with almost adulatory remarks from the experts at the Queen's College, saying among others that of all the designs they had had to assess from other countries, the design from the Gold Coast was almost perfect. When the design got back to Ghana, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah registered his protest immediately. He was completely put off by the incorporation of the lion, a notable British emblem in the design.
Kwame Nkrumah, before he came, the lion that the British artist has added to the coat of arms, Kwame Nkrumah shouted, "Take it out! We don't more want to be colonial. Take it out!" And I immediately took the lion out.
The design minus the lion went back to the castle, but hardly had Kotei had time to dry his brushes than the design was returned to him with an even firmer instruction from Nkrumah.
Put the lion back. And I said, "Yes, sir," with my, and I put the lion.
Why Nkrumah had to do such a dramatic U-turn almost immediately remains a mystery to Kotei to this day.
The speed with which the lion came back and asked me to put it there. I could only imagine that Britain was saying, without the lion, no independence. I imagine. Nobody told me.
Amon Kotei was born on May 24th, 1915 at La in the Greater Accra region. His father was called S.K. Hammond, popularly known in Labadi as Amon Tete. Kotei started formal education at Dodua, but had to change schools very often due to the frequent transfers of his grandfather, David Kotei, a teacher and a catechist, with whom he lived during his formative years. He ultimately completed his elementary education at the La Presbyterian Middle Boys Boarding School, La Salem, in the year 1934. In his early adolescent years, Kotei had noticed that he had a very strong fascination for works of art in general. He was particularly delighted by drawing, painting, and clay modeling. Significantly, it was his father who first observed his artistic talents. His father therefore had him apprenticed to one Kofi Johnson, a famous commercial artist in Accra at the time, to help develop Kotei's potential. It was during this apprenticeship that Kotei's talent as an artist began to emerge and blossom. Then, through the efforts of his father and others, he got a government scholarship to study art at Achimota College, known at the time as the Prince of Wales College. He enrolled in a special art school in the college under one European called Mr. Merowitz, who was a first-class sculptor. But things did not turn up at the art school as Kotei had expected. He wanted to be a sculptor. That was his chief ambition at the time. His clay models were exceptional and exciting, at least in his estimation. Unfortunately, his interest in sculpturing was terribly thwarted by Mr. Merowitz.
I was peculiar because everybody was influenced to do African art, but I was not pleased with the cause, because I said I want to be an artist generally, not control to do aquaba and all those things called African art.
He believed that as an artist, he must be free to express his talent in the manner that the divine inspiration came to him. Mr. Merowitz took this courageous stance by the artist as an affront. He would often come and stand over Kotei's shoulders as he worked and would keep repeating the word, "Horrible, horrible." Kotei saw trouble looming large ahead of him, but he was least deterred. Come hell or high water, he was going to be a unique painter, carver, and sculptor, and not a mere imitator to satisfy the machismo of a bigoted white tutor.
And so my scholarship to Achimota was withdrawn. Instead of 3 years, it was about 2 years. Not 2 years. My scholarship at Achimota was withdrawn. And I was happy. I had to be kicked from Achimota because I want to be free.
He consoled himself with the fact that he had come out with his pride and his vision intact. He was an artist with a God-given talent that no man, no machine, and no magic could take away from him. After his expulsion, he found work as a pupil teacher at the Antesim Memorial School at La, more to make ends meet than out of frustration. He was one person who had strong faith in God and passionately believed that whatever destiny God had appointed unto a man was sure to prevail, despite any impediments thrown in his way by men. To assert his artistic and financial independence, Kotei turned his attention to the armed forces, which at that time held much promise for his talents. On the 6th of March 1942, he enlisted into the West African Frontier Force. The 6th of March, what a date. That same date, 15 years later, was destined to be the date for Ghana's political independence. Was this man's destiny tied to that of Ghana in a way, or was that a mere coincidence? Because of his background, he was taken into the Frontier Force as a cartographic draftsman. His rank was Corporal, First Class. His unit was 36th Field Survey. There he received further training and was stationed at the map depot. Kotei got married to Na Adole Ado of the Abafung clan of La, and they had their first child, Nikoi, in the year 1940. Again, another interesting coincidence. Kotei was born in 1915, 1 year after the First World War had started, and he had his first child, a boy, in 1940, 1 year after the Second World War had started. Was it again a mere coincidence that such two significant events of his life, his own entry into the world and the entry of his first child, should occur in the midst of the two global conflicts?
I was teaching in a primary school, and there are two, a boy and a girl, who carried my notebooks from my house to the school every morning, every day. One upon a time, these two, boy and a girl, brought a smaller boy. I liked that boy automatically. That boy was called Ankama. I announced that if your brother has a sister, if you have got a sister, that sister is my wife. If you ever have a sister, that sister of yours is my wife. This sounds like a prophetic announcement. It happened that I happened to see that sister of his, and that is my wife. Now, then, and now, I just announced that she is my wife, and indeed, she has ever been my wife. And she has brought forth all my children. Ask me how many children. 12 children came out of that woman who I pronounced was my wife. Not that I will marry her, but she is my wife. If you can understand prophetic language, God is great.
And quite a little be share. No fan, no how. The small bee. Draw him in and what a feel. Tell when it touch me, she back at me, back with a war. And I go back to the feel. Lana Monday, she about like a tie. Okay, look on the La Monda, no near Mala. No, no, one here, what can they be, and what some can be. No, here, make a quay, be at this school. Moko Bene, for this school. Brought out the back boy, Boma. No, a BJ, saying, war him, walk out of school. No war, a yam is saying, no family to send this school. No, papa. What? No, what? Jacket. Njejera. Only be sorted. No, I would be a name and Yemen. No, papa. Why do I?
As a father and knowing the value of education, Amonkote left no stone unturned in giving all his 12 children, as well as some of the children of his siblings, the best education available. Today, he looks back with the greatest of pride and enjoys the fact that his children have all become notable personalities in their various fields of endeavor, serving their nation and the world in distinguished positions around the globe.
First child, Nikwe, is dead at the moment. The second child, Ade, is a midwife in UK. The third, Ne Amo, civil engineer, dead at the moment. Jane, my fourth, a banker in US. Aputu is a chemist. In US also. Nyoka, a biochemist. Namikote, seamstress. Neighboy, my eighth child, working with IBM in US. Kute Kai, a housewife. Neighbadu, the 10th, is a veterinary doctor in the US. My last two daughters, Jojo is in UK and Fofo is in UK. Apparently all my kids are medical biased. Daughter, Dilson, yes. Nami Kote and Kote Kai are the girls, my girls, that are left to take care of me. And they are wonderfully taking care of me. God is great. We have had 12 children. All my children came from the same wife.
My father, as I know him, I remember a father who really, really loved us. Me particularly, I remember because I was the only girl among 6 children at the time. And whenever he came from work, he would look for me first. That much I remember. And he would play with us, he would teach us. I remember very well when we were going to school, each time we come back from school, there's a big table, I'm sure the table is still there, where he would sit, my father would sit us all around us. We all have to do some work. Prior to going to school, we could almost read and write because my father made sure that he taught us himself. He would reprimand us when we do anything wrong, and it's just nice. I just remember him, with a fond memory.
I work at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. I just came to see my father, I've been seeing him for a while. And sometimes when I call here to speak to him, he don't seem to remember Johnny. I say, oh Lord, Senna, the man he became a Senna. I better run home. So here I am. I came to see him, and fortunately or unfortunately, it's his birthday too, not the second birthday, so combine it all. And I'm happy the boy, I'm glad he's alive. And
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Father. Happy birthday to you. How old are you now? 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 He's 92 years old today.
congratulations.
Give me my share in Dallas.
Happy birthday, Papa.
Thank you.
I know him to be a very strong person, strong not in the sense of physical strength, but mental strength and verbal strength. Words are very powerful things, and times when you have some difficulty and you call him up, from US wherever you are, and he might not even talk about the problem you have. But just by talking to him, if anybody who knows how he talks smoothly, deep voice, and pronounce his words very carefully. Just listening to those smooth, calm, deep voice, that gives you strength. And I can tell you stories, how I've called him several times in terms of very, very difficult, troubles, and just listening to him talk. Just listening to him talk is enough to give you the energy that you need, and these are things that, I cherish very, 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 highly of my father, yes.
And when I was a young guy, I know that my father had been designing stamps, postage stamps. I know he had been designing a lot of crests for various schools. For example, Labondi Secondary School, the crest, I know that he designed it. I know that my father had been illustrating some books. The Ghana Telecom, their old directory, most of his illustrations were in it. Then I also knew that he was the designer of the coat of arms for Ghana. And that really was the peak of my happiness of what he has done all these years.
Papa came and me 7th born. Papa